Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're pulling on a thread that seems, well, almost impossible. It connects 15th century Japanese imperial politics, like serious succession drama, with decades of animated TV success.
Right. It sounds pretty wild when you put it like that.
We are diving into a globally famous anime, one you might even know, about this young, super clever Zen Buddhist monk, Ikkyû-san.
Exactly. And that's our mission today, really. We're looking at the source material, the history, and the show itself, Ikkyû-san, from Toei Animation. We want to figure out how this historical comedy, based on a real figure from a turbulent past, grabbed audiences across Asia for so long.
And the hook, the thing that just grabs you immediately, is who this monk actually was. You hear Zen monk, you picture something specific, right?
No. Quiet, contemplative.
But the historical person, Ikkyû-san, his identity is pure high-stakes politics.
That's the shock factor. The real Ikkyû-san, born in Kyoto 1394, he wasn't just some kid. He was the son of Emperor Gokomatsu and a court lady, Mrs. Iyo.
So a prince, like an actual prince.
A prince, yeah. Right in the thick of this power struggle between the imperial court, which had the title, and the military government, the shogunate, which had the real muscle.
Okay, hold on. I always thought Ikkyû-san was this cute kids show about a clever boy at a temple solving little problems. This changes everything. A prince whose life starts with imperial drama.
You've nailed the core conflict that shaped him. The sources talk about the political problem of Japan, and it wasn't small. This was the era when Japan had two rival imperial courts, the northern and southern courts. A huge mess.
Right.
Ikky's father, the emperor, he had legitimacy, but the shogun, specifically Yoshimitsu Ashikaga at the time, held the actual power.
So having an imperial prince around, that's dangerous. A potential rival, a symbol for others to rally around. The shogun wouldn't like that.
Not at all. He was a walking political crisis. And the solution? Get rid of the threat, quietly. Ikky and his mother were forced out of the palace. It wasn't a spiritual decision, it was political exile. Neutralize the prince.
Wow. That's a rough start for anyone, let alone a child.
Yeah.
And the sources give a clear timeline for this, don't they?
They do. It's quite specific and frankly heartbreaking. He was only 5 years old when he was taken from his mother, which is a huge emotional point, and sent off to Onkokuji Temple to be ordained.
5 years old.
Yeah. Making him a monk was the safest political move. No way he could lead a rebellion from inside a temple, right? So his path to becoming this icon of wisdom, it was forged in survival. He had to be smart in a world that was fundamentally hostile to his very existence.
And that traumatic backstory, the exiled prince in the temple, that's the specific frame the anime uses.
Precisely. Toei Animation took that early life, that period at Onkokuji, and focused right in. They turned this story of political exile and survival into, well, a historical comedy about a brilliant kid solving problems.
Which brings us to the anime itself, because the scale of this thing is pretty impressive.
Oh, absolutely staggering. Toei Animation, with Kimio Yabuki directing, they're really committed. Ikki-san wasn't some short-run series. It aired for almost 7 years.
7 years. How many episodes?
Get this. 296 episodes, running from October 1975 all the way to June 1982.
296. That tells you something about how popular it must have been. A massive hit. And the genre mix is interesting, too. Historical, yes, but also comedy. And crucially, known for being mostly nonviolent.
That nonviolence is really key, I think, especially for its success outside Japan. I mean, the historical period they're drawing from led straight into the Dina War, which basically destroyed Kyoto. Total chaos.
Right, a brutal conflict.
But Toei deliberately chose to focus on Ikky's brain power, his wit, his cleverness, not on fighting. Even when, historical conflicts like the war are mentioned, it's usually pretty mild, filtered through a child's perspective, focusing on finding peaceful solutions.
And they kept some complexity with the supporting cast, right? It wasn't just Ikky. They included real historical figures.
Definitely. Key figures are there. You had Kishie Miyauchi voicing Gaikon Oshi, the head priest at the temple, his mentor figure. And importantly, Shinji Yamada voiced the shogun Yoshimitsu Ashikaga.
Ah, the shogun himself. The man responsible for Ikky's exile in the first place. Having him as a character in a kid's comedy, that creates some tension.
Exactly. It's brilliant, really. The shogun often shows up to challenge Ikky, maybe pose riddles or present difficult situations. So you have this constant dynamic, the exiled prince having to cleverly outwit the powerful shogun, often right under his nose, but without ever explicitly stating their real underlying political history. It's all subtext.
That dynamic lets us talk about Ikky the character, the anime version. Because they definitely took some liberties, didn't they?
Oh, huge artistic liberties. The historical Ikki grew up to be this really unconventional, quite eccentric Zen master, a poet, an artist, definitely not always following the rules. The cartoon Ikki, though, he's streamlined for appeal.
How so?
The sources describe him as cute and very neat. He's like the perfect child prodigy, always clean, always polite, and his main weapon is just pure intelligence.
Which leads straight to the core mechanic of the show, right? It wasn't magic or fighting?
Nope. It was all about Ikkyû using his brain, his wit, his logic, sometimes these clever Zen-style paradoxes, to solve basically any problem that came his way. Helping the monks, helping poor farmers deal with greedy merchants, outsmarting pompous officials, you name it.
So, applying logic to everyday stuff, can you give an example?
Sure, there are classic ones, like a rich guy commissions a painting of a fierce tiger on a screen, but then he insists, before you deliver it, you have to tie the tiger up. It's an impossible demand, meant to trick the artist.
Okay, so how does Ikki handle that?
He just shows up with the blank screen and a rope. He bows really low and says something like, "Honorable sir, here is the rope. Please hold it tightly while I paint the ferocious tiger out from the screen so you can tie it up."
Huh? Brilliant. The guy can't tie up a tiger that doesn't exist yet. He's caught.
Exactly. It's that constant, clever turning of logic back on itself. That's what makes him so endearing.
And here's where it gets really good visually. They needed something iconic, right? A signal that his brain was working overtime.
They absolutely did. And they created probably the most famous running gag associated with the show. It signals his genius is about to strike.
What is it?
Whenever Ikki is really concentrating, trying to figure out a tricky problem, he sits down, usually in a lotus position.
Okay.
Then he wets his 2 index fingers with his tongue. And then he rotates them in circles above his head, like little antennas tuning into an idea.
Oh, I can picture that. That little finger rotating thing, it's so specific. It's like the visual cue for thinking cap is on.
Totally. It's that light bulb moment made physical. And it travels perfectly across languages and cultures. You see those rotating fingers, you know a clever solution is coming. It kind of visually reinforces the Zen idea of focused concentration, too.
Right. That power comes from inner focus. And that universal appeal, that visual gag, it must have helped it travel.
Hugely. The show wasn't just big in Japan, it was massive across East and Southeast Asia, a real piece of Japanese cultural soft power long before that term was common.
And we have some proof of its staying power, right? Even years later.
Yeah, there are metrics. Even as late as 2005, TV Asahi did this big online poll of the top 100 anime series of all time. Ikkyû-san still made the list at number 85. Tied with Hana no Ko Lenlun, actually. That shows it stuck around in people's minds for generations.
Then outside Japan.
The impact was arguably even bigger in some places. Our sources confirm it became one of the most well-known, most beloved Japanese anime in China, for instance.
That's significant, especially considering historical tensions. Why did it work so well there?
Well, think about it. It's nonviolent. It emphasizes wisdom, cleverness, respect for elders, which resonates with Confucian values, and solving problems peacefully. It presented a positive sort of intellectual image. It bypassed a lot of potential friction.
It exported Zen philosophy and Japanese history in a really accessible, positive way. Okay, and the ultimate proof of its cultural footprint, using it for tourism.
That's kind of the mic drop, isn't it? This cartoon, based on a 15th century prince forced into monkhood, was later chosen decades later to promote international tourism to Kyoto, the actual historical city where he lived.
So the cartoon character becomes the ambassador for the real history.
Sometimes more effective than the history itself, maybe.
And the franchise didn't just stop with the TV series. There was more content.
Yeah, they kept it going. Several anime films were made over the years, often using this recurring mischievous princess theme, which added another fun dynamic. Films came out in 78, 80, 81, and believe it or not, a new film retelling popped up as recently as 2014.
Wow, 2014. And it still shows up in pop culture.
Definitely. It got referenced in an episode of the anime Kakaishi back in 2008, which shows it's still part of the shared anime knowledge base. And even, more experimentally, the music group Wednesday Campanella has a whole song and music video named Ikkyû-san, so its image continues to resonate.
That is serious staying power, built on this surprisingly deep, complex history. So if we pull it all together, Ikkyû-san is this amazing blend.
It really is. It takes deep, potentially dark political history, mixes it with a gentle, non-violent comedy, and centers it on this universally appealing idea of sharp wit solving problems.
Making a complex historical figure accessible, even cute.
And beloved, globally, for decades. It distilled this charged origin story, the exiled prince, into a character who uses intelligence, not force, to navigate the world. That formula just worked, offering moral lessons wrapped in really engaging entertainment.
So what's the takeaway here for you listening? Think about it. A cartoon based on a 14th century prince-turned-monk ends up being so popular, so culturally embedded, that decades later it's used to promote modern tourism. It effectively digitized and popularized a piece of ancient history for the whole world.
Which leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? How many other stories that we loved growing up, stories that seem so simple or just, cute and neat on the surface, how many of them might have these long, dramatic, maybe even political histories hiding just underneath? That gap between imperial drama and a kid's cartoon, maybe it's not as wide as we think sometimes.